So, good afternoon everyone. Welcome back at Seminis IX, the second day. Today is all about carrots and onions, and I'm going to introduce the agenda to you. So first off, we will start with a video of one of our colleagues from Germany. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, the pandemic, he is not able to join this year. But he has recorded a video about the onions. And it's more about the new portfolio of the onions, the new varieties. Thereafter, our colleague Wout Nelissen will do a presentation about the current onion portfolio. Then we have Ermers from crop protection, who will tell more about the crop protection in carrots and onions. And later on, we will get to Wieger from Maldegem. He's the carrot breeder, and he will tell about the carrot crop key objectives. And later he will be Wout Nelissen will again join him to tell more about the carrot portfolio. Hopefully you will enjoy this agenda today, and I will be at the end to talk about you again.
Hello, welcome to today's live session. My name is Andreas Kurtz. I'm Technical Account Manager for Germany, Austria, Switzerland and Czech Republic, and I'm working with Seminis since 8 years. Seminis has a very long history in onion breeding, especially in the Rheinsberger segment. Everybody knows the Itos like Barito, Roquito or 3557 Ito. Next to the Rheinsberger varieties, we offer some intermediate types as well as some Spanish or white onions. But today I will present you a brand new variety. In 2021 we have introduced Saddleback, also known as SVNY 2771. Saddleback is an American long day that matures in only 135 to 145 days. This means that Saddleback is up to 2 weeks earlier than Varus. It can be ready for harvest by end of July. This offers several advantages. Stretch of workload during the harvest season, optimized use of storage and curing facilities. In fact, growers can handle more onions per season than usual. Plus, you can be one of the first suppliers for your trade partners. But there's even more arguments. The onion price is highest at the beginning of the season. With the harvest of set and winter onions in June, the price starts decreasing and settles at around 13 euros by the end of August. But the sale of first early summer zone onions starts by the end of July, and for some time growers can realize 2 to 4 times higher prices than only a few weeks later in the season. So we see that maturity is an important factor for price. But wouldn't it be nice if your variety comes with some extra yield potential as well, yielding better than its competitors? Which varieties are competing in this first early segment? And can Saddleback offer some extra yield potential? Hessen, Pfalz and Bavaria are the most important production areas for first early onion varieties in Germany. Dienstleistungszentrum ländlicher Raum Rheinpfalz recommends to grow varieties like Tagstar, Tagmark or Lusta for the area Hessen and Pfalz. The official advisor service in Bavaria recommends a similar set of varieties. So that's the varieties Saddleback will have to challenge in terms of yield potential. The following slides will show how Saddleback has performed. Since 2016, Saddleback was tested against one or more reference varieties in the most important growing regions for early material for the German team. Means Pfalz-Hessen, Bavaria, Switzerland and of course the official trial station in Dresden-Pillnitz. We have analyzed the yield potential of Saddleback compared to its competitors, always in the same field. And whenever you see a value higher than 100%, we harvested more kilos for Saddleback. If the value is below 100%, the Saddleback sample got less kilos than its reference variety. Or let's make it easy, whenever you hear the cash sound with the new label, we collected more kilos for Saddleback in that trial. But how can Saddleback actually give better stand and bigger bulb size? Let's see in the next slide. Okay, which factors influence the yield potential of onions? Even stand is the base for high yield potential, and ideal results need fast and uniform germination. This works best with a good vigor of the seed. And nutrient or water uptake is correlated to the power of the root system, so we need a plant with a strong root system too. A strong root system again is the base for strong tops. Tops are the factory of the plant, and bulb size has a strong correlation with the size of the tops. But only a sound plant is productive, and many fungal diseases of the root can't be controlled by chemicals. So this means we need some level of fungal disease resistance too, for instance against pinkroot. Since Saddleback has proven its high yield potential, there must be a link with some of these features. Even stand begins with uniform germination. Seminis offers precision seed in fractions between 2 and 2.75 mm. The average 1000 seed weight of onion is somewhere around 4 grams. Saddleback 1000 seed weight is around 5 grams. Still within the same fraction, but at the bigger end. Bigger, heavier seed can store more power. This supports the germination process and finally results in better stand. Let's see some examples. Uniform germination in Bavaria 2020. In Switzerland 2017. In Pfalz area 2019. And in Hessen area 2019. So Saddleback shows that uniform germination is important for even stand of the crop, but a high yield potential needs more than uniform germination. What about the other features? As you can see, Saddleback is equipped with a very strong root system that allows continuous water and nutrient uptake, providing enough power to build strong tops in a short time. And Saddleback has proven to build stronger tops than competition under various conditions over the past 5 years, no matter very hot conditions in summer or in difficult and cold periods like in spring 2020. This is showing Saddleback next to a competitor in Hessen in 2020. Do you see there's more roots, bigger bulbs and more leaf material in the top row with the Saddleback plants? If that's not clear enough for you, we can have a look at the next example. Here comes a very good example, also dating from 2020 season. This field in Dirmstein-Pfalz was sown 12th of March and was facing very difficult conditions for germination. Poor soil preparation, cold and dry conditions after sowing, with dry winds from the east that let the surface dry out very quickly after irrigation. Looking at the picture, it is clear the Saddleback in the bottom is better developed, but how to capture this impression in numbers? During my observation on 7th of July, I counted germination, measured the size of the tops, organized the plants in 3 different categories according to their size, and I measured the size of the bulbs, and that's what I found. Only slightly more plants germinated for Saddleback, but big differences in size classes. Saddleback has way more plants in the XL cluster, and the XL plants of Saddleback measure 55 centimeters, while the reference only measures 45 centimeters. Finally, the bulb diameter was clearly bigger too. How come that Saddleback counts way more XL plants? I would think this is a combination of even germination and strong root development, resulting in 10 cm taller leaves that can generate more power to produce 20% bigger bulbs at the same time. So this is a good example to show that Saddleback has got some advantages in the features linked to yield potential. However, the best features can fail in difficult situations, for instance when the plant is attacked by a disease. This is a picture from a trial in Zeeland, Switzerland, taken on 12 August 2020. The field was irrigated, but Trips attack and hot temperatures made the variety suffer. But look at the tops of the variety between the blue lines. It is suffering much more than the other varieties. Tops like this are often associated with the problem of the root. Let's zoom in. Oh, those leaves, they look like fried. Let's have a closer look at the roots, because if you see tops like this, you can expect roots like that. Okay, a bit closer please. Next slide please. Okay, this looks like pink root infection. Let's consult the Seminis disease guide. Pink root is a soil-borne fungus that likes hot temperatures and advances with climate change. Except for 4 to 6 year crop rotation, there is not so much you can do, unless you find a variety with some level of disease resistance. The picture shows a susceptible variety to the right, and the variety with some level of resistance to pink rot to the left. The roots of the susceptible variety are strongly damaged by pink root. Saddleback roots to the left look much better. That's for a reason, because Saddleback has got an intermediate resistance against pink root. So, Saddleback has got one more feature that supports productivity and finally high yield potential. It's the intermediate resistance against the pink root. But Saddleback is not the only variety that offers some level of pink root resistance. Looking at our product range, you will even find varieties with high resistance against pink root. And this is what high resistance looks like in the field. This picture was taken in a field with high pink root pressure in 2020. The roots of varieties with high resistance against pink root will still show a rose or slight pink discoloration, but the roots will not decay, they keep working and the plant keeps growing. Today, Seminis is offering 4 varieties with pink root resistance. Saddleback, Pocono, which is an American long day variety which is about 10 days later than Saddleback, SV6646NV, which is a Spanish long day for the peeling industry, and the red onion 4593, which also offers an intermediate resistance against Fusarium. Of course, we know that Fusarium resistance is top of the list for most onion growers. And actually we are trialing some varieties that are showing interesting differences compared to conventional Rheinsberger types, like SVNV 1138. Let's have a look. SVNV 1138 is a late Spanish long day onion. With a development time of about 155 days, it has similar timing like our mid-early Rheinsberger 3557. Bulbs are dark bronze, the root system is very strong and the tops are tall. The variety has an outstanding yield potential and stores until January. And 1138 has a very interesting Fusarium profile. What does it mean? We will have a quick look. In 2020 season we have tested 1138 in Siebenkofen in Bavaria. Siebenkofen is a real Fusarium hotspot. Our reference variety was a Rheinsberger type from our main competitor. The sample size of 6 meter bed but was assessed in 3 reps. This makes a sampling surface of 3 times 12 square meter or 3 times 500 plants per variety. For each variety and rep, the number of Fusarium infected plants and bulbs was counted, and we found significant differences between the two varieties. While we found 7% infected plants in the first rep of the Rheinsberger, we found 0% in SV1138. Same picture in repetition 2. In repetition 3, the Rheinsberger showed 3% Fusarium infected plants, but again no infected plants in 1138. So I started to check a bigger set of plants, this time 3000. Still 0% of infected plants to be found in the 1138. 1138 will be launched in 2021, and we are having high hopes that this variety will show similar responses to Fusarium attack in other fields. I have come to the end of my presentation. Many thanks for your attention, and at the end of the next session you will have the opportunity to ask some questions. Thanks and enjoy the next presentation. Bye.
Welcome to this broadcast. My name is Wout Nelissen. I've been a sales rep for Seminis since 2.5 years now. Today I will discuss our onion varieties and the experience I've had in these 2.5 years. Besides that, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them and we will discuss them after my presentation. As discussed, we will talk about 6 of our varieties today. These are the 6 ones that I have been working with in the Netherlands mainly. We are starting with Barito. Barito is our earliest spring sown onion variety. Hang on. It gives a very good yield, and especially in sandy soils in the south of the Netherlands, it gives an early high yield. You can think of harvest in August, and it's suitable for sales directly after harvest, straight into the pack house and to the end user. And if possible, you can store it for a short while, but not too long. Second earliest is Shakito. Shakito is only a few days later than Barito in the early sandy areas, but it has the advantage of a good skin and a good firmness, which means if you as a grower who is selling straight from the field, you have an issue in the market, or the market does not want onions on the moment you are harvesting, you can easily store them if necessary until March. But yeah, in the meanwhile you can look of course for a good time to sell your onions and make a good price. It has a high percentage of single centers, and as mentioned, it's storable until March. Third in line is the SV3557ND, a bit later again than the Barito and Shakito. But one of its unique features is the fact that it develops a lot of leaves in an early stage, which means, for example, weed control is easier, but also before it gets really dry and hot, this variety has already produced quite a big leaf mass, which means it's also able to give good yields on drought-sensitive areas. I've seen it in the Netherlands on sandy soils, but also on heavier soils and really on clay soils as well. It is storable until March, and even in some cases on the really storage soils until May. And that's the 3557. Next in line is Paquito, again a little bit later than 3557. It's a variety that can give really high yields on light soils with a good availability of water. Then it can outperform almost every other variety in yield. And on top of that, besides good yield, it also has a good storability features such as skin retention and firmness. It's storable until May as well. It's a really nice variety, and I'm quite enthusiastic about it. Next one is Roquito. And Roquito is one of our bigger varieties in the Netherlands. It's a mid-early variety, but as a unique feature, it's for long storage. So we store it until May or June. It has a good root system, which means it's also tolerant against some fungal soil diseases. It has a good erect, strong foliage, and what it's really good about Roquito, the name says it, it's really rock hard. It is incredibly hard, and it combines this firmness with a good yield, both from the field, so gross yield, as well as net yield back out. And of course a good skin retention. We see this variety in mainly in the real storage areas where they do a lot of, where they grow onions for storage, for long storage. But it also performs well on light soils. Last in line is Bossito. It's a mid-late variety. Bossito, again, also suitable for long storage. So good skin retention, good firmness. And on top of that, because it is mid-late, it also has some tolerance against drought. So what we've seen is where other varieties go down when you have like a heat wave in August. This one stays upright and keeps growing for some time, which gives good yields on non-irrigated soils. Again, it has a high percentage of single centers with a good sprouting tolerance and is one of our newer varieties. Then, long story short, I've got a small summary for you where you can see each and every variety combined with its yields, earliness, storability, skin retention, firmness, sprouting tolerance and shape. And this is basically the story I just told you, only in numbers. This was my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Wout, first of all, thank you very much for the nice introduction of onion portfolio. So we have two questions from our audience. The first one is, for sandy soil type, which variety is for second early?
For second early, you can use either Shaquito, when you really want on the early side of the market, or you can use the 3557, when you want to be a little bit later and have a bit of a bigger yield potential.
Thank you. And the second question is, which variety is quite early but suitable for long storage?
That must be Roquito, as mentioned in my presentation. It's a mid-early variety with the ability to store until April, May, so for long storage. This gives growers the possibility to harvest early, so to really bring in a nice product, and then before conditions get really wet, you are done in the field. So you get a nice product at the beginning of storage, which makes it also easier to store it until the end with good quality and good results.
Within the Netherlands, we have three different segments. The early segment and the main season segment for Northern Europe and main season for Southern Europe. Important traits we work on in carrots. For early carrots, it's of course early maturity and bolting tolerance for the very early sowings. For the early carrots, we have the variety Cavora, which is very early. And we have a new variety, Caruba, which is early and has a very good bolting tolerance. For main season carrots, root strength is very important and storability. In that segment we have two new varieties, Carlano and Caribou. Both are very strong and can stand machine harvest very well and are very good storable for long-term storage. Then there's the third segment for Southern Europe, and for that market leaf diseases are very important. You need strong top and smooth roots. And since very recent we have a new variety for the Southern European market, which is Carvalho. The focus of our pipeline, which is well filled, is leaf diseases and root diseases. That's going to be an important trait for the near future, where chemicals are more and more under pressure and natural resistances are more and more important.
Hi there, and welcome to this second part for me at the IX event of Seminis here in Enkhuizen. Very happy again, just like yesterday, to be able to join you in this live stream and to give you some insights on crop protection in onions and carrots. Where, as we talked about brassicas yesterday, we will focus today on onions and on carrots. My name is Ermers. I'm a crop advisor for outdoor vegetables for Bayer Crop Science. And as I said, I'm very happy to be here. If you take a look at the acreage in the Netherlands on onions and on carrots, you can see in the lower area of the slide that both onions and carrots are major crops for Dutch vegetable growers. Both crops are mostly seen as arable crops in the Netherlands. So they fit in an arable crop rotation very well, and they have a very steady position in it. If we take a look at onions, you can see that we are close to 37,000 hectares, which is for an area, a country as the Netherlands, quite a big area. Over the last few years, the area of onions tend to rise a little bit, which gives some problems in some areas with a crop rotation on 1:6, if there's enough space for onions to be grown. So you see in the Netherlands that new areas are developed where onions are grown, more in the north and the northeast part of the Netherlands. And for carrots, we can see a very stable area over the last few years. If we take a look at crop protection in onions, then I will focus on a few pests and diseases we know in this crop. Of course, there are many more, but let's focus on these few. The most important in fungal diseases for onions, downy mildew, botrytis leaf blight, and Staphylium. If we look at the portfolio we have in onions, then we're very happy to have two very strong products in this crop, and both products are able to fight these diseases very well. On downy mildew, the name is Peronospora destructor, and it's not a coincidence that that name is given to this disease. If you take a look at this disease, then it might happen that within 14 days your field is gone from very healthy to completely ruined. Basic problem with downy mildew is that the incubation time of this disease is very long compared to other diseases. So if you see the first signs of downy mildew, you can be sure that more downy mildew is on its way. So that's why a preventive approach of this disease is very important. Botrytis leaf blight, also an important disease in the Netherlands, mostly seen when the leaves are going down in onions, because the weather conditions in the crop are more favorable for botrytis leaf blight. The disease needs wet conditions and a long wet leaf period to develop. Very easy to recognize this disease if you see the little gray spots on the leaf and you squeeze them very, very soft, then you can see with botrytis that a crack will occur in the spot. You can squeeze any spot, but as long as you don't see the crack appear, then it's not botrytis leaf blight. Very short incubation time, so this disease can develop very fast. And also for this disease, and actually for all diseases in onions, we say a preventive approach is necessary. Staphylium, as third major disease, is a very tricky one, because Staphylium will infect your crop early in the season, but it will only show itself later in the season, especially when the crop is suffering from other problems like drought or too warm weather conditions. So Staphylium is a problem mostly not prevented early in the season, and then later on in the season you can see the problems with Staphylium go way over your head. So for Staphylium you need to be there early in the season to prevent infection, to make sure that at the end of the season it doesn't give you any problems. For insects in onions, the list is longer than mentioned here. I will focus on thrips and onion maggot, both very big problems at this moment in onions in the Netherlands. Onion maggot, Delia antiqua, is especially a problem because we don't really have the crop protection products to fight this insect. Of course, there are some measures you can take on an integrated pest management approach with sterile female insects on this insect problem with onion maggot. But we have some problems with the amount of insects that are available in this integrated pest management program. For thrips, we can say that over the last few years we really did a good thing in bringing knowledge to the growers. And the results are clear to me in the field that because growers have more knowledge, they are aware that for a problem as thrips tobacci, you also have to be very early in the season to prevent problems with this insect. If you let this insect infest your crop and you leave it there and you let it grow, population will grow, and within a matter of time you won't be able to get a grip on the population growth. So everything you need to do in a crop like onions to prevent thrips is make sure the crop is growing in the best possible way, and next to that, be in time. So monitoring of the disease is very, very important. As you can see on the photos I brought, on the left side, you can clearly see downy mildew spores on an onion leaf. A fun fact for downy mildew: if the spores are formed, the disease can spread, of course, very fast. What is good to know that if you have rainfall, only a slight bit of rainfall between 3 and 6 a.m. in the morning is enough to prevent sporulation from happening. So if you want to fight downy mildew, always keep in mind that in the nights when it's raining, the disease won't spread. On the right side you can see a photograph of onion leaves and you see a very big thrips kind sitting on the leaf. And if you take a very close look in front of these thrips, you can see an adult of Thrips tabacci and you see some very small dark yellow spots. Those are the larvae of Thrips tabacci. And the biggest thrips you see here is not Thrips tabacci, but it's a rove thrips. And rove thrips can help us out in fighting Thrips tabacci. The only problem with rove thrips, they only occur when the pest problem with Thrips tabacci is actually too big. So you see the rove thrips can help us out, but they only appear when the damage is done, a little bit too late. If we look at the portfolio in onions, we are happy to have a lot of products available. Rudis is a product based on proteconazole we use before sowing to fight soil-borne diseases. And also this point, soil-borne diseases, is a growing problem in the Netherlands. Fusarium and white rot, known as old diseases. If you're close on your crop scheme in interval, then you know that sooner or later you will have problems with fusarium or white rot. Over the last few years we also see pink root making a big rush in onions, and that's mostly due to warmer climate conditions helping this disease out. It favors warm conditions, and the small climate change we tend to have does fit this disease very well. Rudis is very good on both white rot and fusarium, and it's not a product to use when pink root is a problem. Fandango and Luna Experience, both used as foliar applications for the foliar diseases, with our proud product Fandango being by far the best product available in onions, because it does not only fight downy mildew in a proper way, but it's also very strong on stem phyllium, on leaf blight, etc. So knowing that in the future we might need to do it without mancozeb in onions, it's good to know that a product as Fandango has a very wide range in preventing all these diseases. If we take a look at the insecticides, Flipper might be new to you to hear. Flipper is a product available in the Netherlands, and we hope in a short time of period it will be available in the rest of Europe as well. It's a biological insecticide based on carbolic acid, and it's very strong in contact work on sucking pests like Thrips tabacci, and in other crops you can use it on aphids and on whitefly, for instance. There you see two products in the middle, Batavia and Movento, both based on Sperotetramat, and as I explained yesterday, very unique products because they do not only work upwards in the plant systemic, but also downwards. So the product is taken up by the plant and it's brought up in the plant through the xylem, and through the phloem it's also going there in the plant where growth is happening. And for Thrips tabacci in onions, that's a very good matter because the larvae of thrips are always in the shaft of the onion and very hard to reach for other products. So Batavia and Movento both being able very well to reach the larvae of thrips. If we then take a shorter look at carrots, major pests and diseases, also the same split up, fungal diseases and insects. Cavity spot being a very old disease in carrots and mainly due to a crop rotation that is too short. For carrots, the advice would be 1 on 8 to keep in mind to prevent problems with cavity spot. And once you have cavity spot, if you're a carrot grower, then you, without any doubt, you know this. Once you have cavity spot, you're infected for the rest of your life. So cavity spot also, try to keep in mind that a long crop rotation is actually necessary. We have, and I will come back to that later, we have a nice product on cavity spot available, a biological product for soil application. If we take a look at the other diseases, carrot leaf blight and powdery mildew, both foliar diseases, and a little bit depending on the year you're in, what disease will occur first. Powdery mildew, as we know, most favorable warm weather conditions. It hardly needs any moist to develop. So that's the strength of powdery mildew, and you can recognize it, of course, by the white soft blush that is occurring on the crop. Carrot leaf blight, it's a little bit a harder disease to fight. Mainly occurs when the crop is going down at the end of the season. It's getting a little bit weaker, the crop, which is a good thing for Alternaria dauchi to infect the crop. When we look at the insects in carrots, carrot root fly is a very big problem. We don't have, as Bayer, we don't have products on Psilla rosea, unfortunately. Carrot root aphids are also known as an upcoming problem in the Netherlands, where last year we had quite a lot of infection. This year, so far, the amount of infection is quite low, but over the last 1 or 2 weeks, we can see the infections of pemphigus is going up. And we do have a very nice product for this problem. The carrot willow aphid, mostly known as a problem because it's able to spread a virus in carrots. And it does so very early in the season, meaning that your carrot will be infected and unable to grow out, being a nice full-grown carrot. If we look at the portfolio in carrots, we also have contents available, of course, an old product, but still very good to apply in a crop scheme against sclerotinia. Also a biological product, of course, old but still going strong, as we say. If we look at the foliar applications, we can work with Rudis and with Luna Experience. Both products very good and strong on the diseases I mentioned, where Rudis is very strong on powdery mildew, and Luna Experience, its strength is more to Alternaria than on powdery mildew. I talked about Serenade yesterday as well in brassicas, and I will do again for the carrots. Serenade is a very interesting product because it's a biological product based on Bacillus amyloliquefaciens strain 713. Forget it when I say it, but it's a Bacillus kind of product, very specific strain that is able to prevent powdery mildew when you apply it as a leaf, as a foliar application. But it's also a very interesting product to apply as a soil application. And what it does in the soil, that when you're able to get Serenade in the soil just before or at sowing, the bacteria from Serenade, they will kind of hop on the carrot roots that are developing. And they will protect, they make a film around the carrot root, and they will protect the carrot root from soil-borne diseases. And we have very, very nice results if you look at Pythium violet, cavity spot. The results of Serenade are very, very nice. So keep that in mind if you have problems with cavity spot, to apply a product like Serenade in the soil. Also on the right side you see our insecticides in carrots, Flipper. As I just mentioned, a biological product on sucking pests, which might be very handy early in the season when aphids are a problem. And also here Batavia and Movento, both products based on spirotetamab, where both products are able, when sprayed as a foliar application, to go all the way down in the carrot to the top of the roots, where it can fight your root aphids, the pemphigus kinds. So a spraying, let's say for the Netherlands, for the Dutch conditions, a spraying somewhere at the end of July or the beginning of August is mostly more than enough to completely get rid of the problem for the rest of the season. So a very nice product, long working, and a very good way to get rid of root aphids. In short, this was my presentation on onions and carrots for crop protection products. Of course, we will go on after this with the carrot presentation. If there are any questions left, please feel free to ask them. Thank you for listening.
Mark, thank you very much for the presentation. We have one question from the audience. Do we have any work in progress to insert resistance to thrips in new varieties? If not, would that be possible?
So this question is about if we have any work in progress to get thrips resistance for onions if I got the question right, that's about the question. Well, that would be a better question to ask to the onion breeders of Seminis, of course. If we look at Thrips tabacci, we know from brassica types that there is a big difference in the way the crop is affected by Thrips tabacci. If we take a look at onions, then we know that for other type onions than we grow in the Netherlands, there is also a difference made in how much the crop is affected, yes or no. If we look at the Spanish onions or onions grown, for example, in the United States, we know that some varieties are more susceptible than others. For the Dutch varieties and under Dutch conditions, so far we don't see any differences, but it would be, and of course it is, a very interesting point to have a better look at. So I will bring this to the onion breeders within Seminis, and I will ask them that question again. Thank you.
We are here at our carrot selection field in the Netherlands, as you can see behind me. And this trial is especially placed here because of screening for bolting tolerance. So we sow these carrots early to be able to see the differences in bolting tolerance. And bolting is an important trait in carrots in general, but in early carrots especially. In Seminis we have a long history of carrot breeding because Seminis started as a lot of different companies that had a carrot breeding program, like Royal Sluis, Peter Seed, Esco Seed, Hunong and Chuneng. And because of that we have a very wide gene pool where we can pull from. Globally, Seminis has 3 carrot breeding programs, one in Brazil for tropical carrots, one in the US where they work on cut and peel carrots and chantenay carrots, and one in Europe, here in Holland and in France, where we work Nance carrots only. Within the Nance we have 3 different segments. The early segment and the main season segment for Northern Europe and main season for Southern Europe. Important traits we work on in carrots. For early carrots it's of course early maturity and bolting tolerance for the very early sowings. For the early carrots we have the variety Cavora, which is very early, and we have a new variety Caruba, which is early and has a very good bolting tolerance. For main season carrots, root strength is very important and storability. In that segment we have 2 new varieties, Carlano and Caribou. Both are very strong and can stand machine harvest very well and are very good storable for long-term storage. Then there's the 3rd segment for Southern Europe, and for that market leaf diseases are very important. You need strong top and smooth roots. And since very recent we have a new variety for the Southern European market, which is Carvalho. The focus of our pipeline, which is well filled, is leaf diseases and root diseases. That's going to be an important trait for the near future, where chemicals are more and more under pressure and natural resistances are more and more important. Good afternoon and welcome at our live event today. My name is Wieger from Maldegem and I'm going to tell you something about carrot breeding this afternoon. Unfortunately, we cannot invite you to our field this year because of the COVID situation. It would have been much nicer if you could come to the field, but it's not possible, and that's why I will tell you something in this online presentation. If you have any questions, you can type them in the live stream and I will try to answer them afterwards. As I told you, my name is Wieger van Maldegem and I'm working for this company for 29 years now. I was born and raised in the Noordoostpolder, which is an important area for growing carrots as well. My grandfather started a farm in the Noordoostpolder, which was later succeeded by my father and my uncle. And they were growing carrots and onions already. After the more normal arable crops that were grown there. I, as a young kid, among a lot of other school kids, was harvesting carrots in the school vacation in autumn, because that was all done by hand those days. Today it's all machine harvest, that it really has changed. But I am still digging out, after 45 years, carrots by hand in my selection fields in the Noordoostpolder still. Oh, sorry. So I will tell you something about these topics, the history of the carrot breeding within Seminis, the global carrot breeding, so I'm not the only carrot breeder in Seminis, the segmentation of the Nantes carrots, traits that we're working on, trialing, the trialing system that we have, varieties, and I will not tell a lot about the varieties because afterwards my colleague Wout Nelissen, who you saw before with the onions, will tell you something about the carrots that are here in front of me. And finally, I have a few slides on the seed production, the carrot seed production. So the history of carrot breeding is a very long history, and it's about these companies that came together. I started working in Royal Sluis 29 years ago, but before that Royal Sluis was working already more than 100 years in the breeding of carrots. In 1994, these companies here, that you see here, Royal Sluis, Peter Seed and Esgrow, Hunong and Chuneng, came together in the company Seminis. Royal Sluis here in the Netherlands, Peter Seed and Esgrow in America, and Hunong and Chuneng in Korea. And then the company Seminis was formed, and because of these different companies, we did have access to a very broad gene pool from very diverse origins, which is very nice for a breeder to have access to, because that's your toolbox actually. So, as I told you, I am working on the Nantes carrot, the carrot that is grown mostly here in Europe. A carrot that should be like 20 centimeter long and nice cylindrical. In the United States, we have a breeding program for cut and peel carrots. That's the very long type. I don't know if you can have that, but this is the cut and peel type of carrot. Which is the dominant type of carrot in the United States market. And another type that is being bred there, that is the very conical type of carrot, the Chantenay carrot, is being bred in the US as well. And that is being sold basically in the Eastern European countries and in South America. And then in Brazil we have a program for tropical carrots. And that is facing on tropical carrots only. It's a Nantes type as well, but it's not possible really to exchange or to grow it here in Europe, because it will start to bolt very quickly. So within these programs we do exchange germplasm where possible. And we do cooperate a lot also on developing new traits and developing new breeding techniques. So the segmentation that we have in the NANS program is the program, or we divide the market in 3 different segments. Actually, the early segment, the main season for Northern European carrots, and the main season for Southern European carrots. And I will tell you something about the traits that we're specifically looking for these different markets. So for early, the most important traits actually, so there's many more traits where we are looking at, but I don't want to go through the whole list. I just focus on what I think are the key traits for the products. And for early, that's bolting tolerance. So if you're going to sow early, there's a big risk that you get bolting problems if your variety is not tolerant to bolting. Especially when you're going to sow early in Northern Europe, like in November and December, then you have a very long field period. The roots can be vernalized, meaning that the flower is initiated in the root, and it will start to bloom, which is obviously unwanted for you as a grower. Then earliness is of course important, because an early carrot you want to harvest early, because that's important for the market. You hope to get a bit higher price for it when the main season carrots are not yet harvested, not yet ready, and the carrots from store are finished. Then root strength is also an important trait. Of course, fast growing is not in line with a strong root normally, but we try to get to the optimum for that, and being fast and still have a good strength. And I think with the variety Karuba we've come a very long way. It's a strong carrot, it is very good bolting tolerance, and it's mid-early, so it's not giving a risk for bolting. You can keep it in the field a little bit longer if you need. So here on this picture you see a picture of a bolting trial, and you see in this case are lines, and you really see big differences in bolting between the lines. And this is a trial actually that we are doing in the United Kingdom. This is being sown in November if we can, or early December, and we repeat it year after year to see the differences in the hybrids. And you see big differences here. That's ranking from no bolting at all to 100% bolting. So then the next segment is main season carrots. So that's a little bit later in the season for Northern Europe. There the most important trait I would say is root strength for machine harvest. So we don't want the roots to break during the harvest. Yield potential, obviously, that's for all segments important. Leaf strength, of course, in the end, these days, most of the carrots are harvested by machine, and most of that is done by top lifters. So you need to still have good leaf on top of your roots when you want to harvest them. And storability, of course, is also important. In Northern Europe, we can harvest carrots until October, November, and then there's a period until June, I would say, where we have to store carrots, because then only in June you will have your new carrots, your fresh new carrots available. So you need to store them, and that's being done in a cool store or in the soil. And for that it's important, of course, that you don't get problems with fungal diseases And for that we have some special disease tests, so we can screen the roots for that. And also during the process of breeding, because carrots are a biennial crop, 1 year you grow the roots, and the next year you bring them to seed and to raise the next generation. Because of that, we have to store the roots as well during the winter. So we put them in a cool store, and we have a kind of natural selection there. If the roots don't survive during the winter, we cannot make seed the next generation. So that is a kind of continuous improvement on storability of your roots. Then the main season Southern European market, there's a little bit different emphasis. Yield potential, of course, is going to stay important. And then the leaf diseases, we saw them coming through with Mark's presentation as well. Alternaria doutsii resistance and powdery mildew. Yeah, these traits are even more important for the Southern European market because of the warmer climate. These diseases can be really devastating. And if you have no leaf or not enough leaf, there will be not enough photosynthesis. There will not be enough yield in the end. Together with these resistances, we're also looking at vigorous and upright leaves for this market, because that will give a nicer, more open canopy and a better microclimate, a little bit shorter leaf wetness period. So there's less time for the fungal spores to germinate. So the combination of a good resistance with a good type of leaf is going to give you the best field resistance. And a smooth skin is what the market really is looking for in Southern Europe. Then something on how we trial our varieties. This is the hybrid part. So every year we make around 500 new hybrids. They are trialed in a few trials looking at the key traits. We tend to keep 10%, so 50 varieties to trial next year in more trials. Look at yield potential, look at bolting traits under more pressure, so in the trial in the UK in very early sowing. Next year we move on to 20 varieties, and then we start, at the same time we also start bigger seed production and production of the parental lines to scale them up in case in year 4 and year 5 these varieties make it to commercial. So in the end we hope to have like 1 or 2 varieties left out of this whole series of 500 that make it to commercial. This is a picture of our trialing system in the Netherlands, in the Noordoostpolder. You can see on the left side, you can see the water level. This is 5 meters, almost 6 meters below sea level. This is reclaimed land, but a lot of agriculture there and a lot of carrots and onions in these areas as well. So we're harvesting our trials, and that is what I would like to call our harvest train. This is just a commercial carrot harvested, but rebuilt to very efficiently harvest trials. So you see, one plot is one row of 4 meters that ends up in 2 boxes. After we harvest these trials, the boxes are being moved to our breeding station in Wageningen. There they are being washed and graded. And during this washing process, we also give the roots a drop of 1 meter height on a solid foundation to see the differences in breakage afterwards. Because of that, that's an important trait, and we can very nicely index the strength of the roots in that system. And then finally, all these boxes are put next to each other. And this is only just a part of it, because we're handling thousands of plots, and we can look at more detailed at the trait, at the length of the root, at internal quality. So you can see the roots on the concrete that have been cut to look at internal greening and internal color. And then finally, yeah, we gather a lot of data, and with these data we're going to decide what hybrid goes to the next year of trialing. This is a trial in France. There we don't use this machine. The trial is not as big. You see nice differences for leaf type. The plot in the middle on the left has very nice dark upright leaf. And on the far left side you see varieties with the yellow leaf. So that's the beginning of Alternaria Doutsi in the field, what you don't want. Then there's also another special trial for Alternaria Doutsi. This is also a field trial, but it's really inoculated with the disease. And on the left bottom side you can see there's a real heavy pressure of Alternaria, and the right side it's a almost full resistant variety. It's in the same field. And as you can see, that disease can be really devastating, so you have no leaves at all left in the end. This is another trial for powdery mildew, in this case in a plastic tunnel. And also here you see very nice differences from very susceptible to highly resistant. The varieties that we have, and Wout will tell more about it, but for early Carvora and Caruba, for main season Caribou and Carlano, for Northern Europe strong carrots, and for Southern Europe the variety Carvalho. But Wout will tell a little bit more on it. So I got a few slides on seed production. How are we time-wise? Can I still do these? Yeah? Okay, so most of our carrot seed is being produced in the United States, in Washington, Idaho, Oregon area. And this is a picture when you fly in there. What you see the Snake River, and you see the green circles, which are the pivots for the irrigation system. It's a very nice, dry, warm climate, which is very good for seed production. And the river is going to give enough water. So it used to be a really desert-like area, but 100 years ago, the railway companies, in fact, started to build the irrigation system. And that's why it's called Magic Valley. All at once it became completely green and being a very good area for seed production. So this is when carrots fully bloom. So a carrot grower doesn't want to see it, but for seeds, this is what you need. So on the left side you see a female line, and on the right side you see a male line. The beehives are being placed in these fields to take care of the pollination, and in the end we can harvest the hybrid seeds from the female line. Oh, that's too fast. Go one back. So, in case you don't have a very big production, you can put it in isolation cages as well. This is our mega cages that we use for stock seed productions, parental lines, or for small hybrid productions. Because if you put your seed production outside, you really need a lot of space around it, because the bees will not stay in your confined area, but they will fly like 2-3 kilometers. So you need a wide circle around it where you don't have another variety to prevent cross-pollination. To test for producibility, we put all the lines. So this is not actually for seed production, but testing. On the left side you see a female line, on the right side a male line, and then it's all different plots of these lines. That's where we test. Whether the nicking, so the flowering time of these lines, is the same. And yeah, we test the feasibility of the seed production for hybrids, because that's an important thing as well, not for our growers, But for us as a seed company, it's of course important that we can produce enough seed of our hybrids. So that was my presentation. This again is a list with the varieties, but Wout will tell a bit more about that. Do we have questions?
I have one question from the audience. What do you see as an important goal for the future of carrot breeding?
Thank you for that question. I think most important thing for the future will be disease resistance, improved disease resistance, because we see more and more pressure on chemicals that the growers can use. It's more and more difficult to introduce new crop protection for carrots, and that's why we put a lot of emphasis on disease resistance. I hope that answers your question. And I will give the floor over to Wout to tell something about these very nice carrots here in front of me.
Thank you, Wieger. My name is Wout Nelissen, and I will shortly discuss our varieties with you that I've got here on display, my experience with them and some technical details. I will not make it as scientific as Wieger did, so I hope you will enjoy. I will start with Cavora. Cavora is our earliest variety that we have in our portfolio right now, about 90 days to maturity. It's being used both for the washing market, so being washed and packed, as well as for bunching. And for bunching, for early production, is also possible to put it under fleece cover. Leaf cover is very good. If you see it next to a different variety, it really pops out. Advantage of Cavora is it's early, which means it makes quickly a cylindrical root, which means you quickly have yield and also you have quickly your desired product. Next variety, Karuba, is a little bit later, about 5 to 10 days later. It's extremely uniform, just like Cavora. But one of the advantages is it is a little bit later, but it also is stronger against breakage, which is of course an important trait when you are producing quick growing onions. It can be a soft spot sometimes. It has a much bigger harvest window compared to Cavora, which also is because it's a little bit slower growing. So it takes more days to maturity, but also when it's ready, it can also take a little bit longer until it grows out of shape or out of quality. It has a really good taste, which is confirmed both by growers as well as ourselves in this case, when you compare it against other varieties which can be found in the market, as well as our own varieties. It has quite a healthy foliage, by the way. Third, Caribou. It's a main season variety, can be harvested from summer basically until autumn, and is also suitable for long storage. So we have also seen it in long storage against competition, against market standards, and it really performs well, with the plus side that it grows a little bit of a longer root, which means you get more yield, which you also get in the end. It is a nice, smooth and cylindrical root, as you can see, with a good uniformity, which also stays uniform when, for some reason, sowing conditions have been bad, so your emergence or your germination was not as wished. On high densities as well as on low densities, it gives a nice uniform root. Next one is Calano. Calano has about 130 days to maturity, so it's a little bit later than our Caribou, which I discussed before. Caribou is 120, Calano is 130. It has a very high yield potential. It can be used both for fresh market as well as, for example, for slicing and other ways of processing. It's a really high yielding variety, which with really healthy tops, one of the healthiest in the market, at least of our portfolio that we have in the Netherlands, and also compared to competition. Powdery mildew is not an issue with this variety, and it's also quite strong against Alternaria doudsii, and it's really suitable for organic production for that reason. Next is Carvalho. Carvalho is, as Wieger mentioned, one of our Alternaria doudsii resistant varieties, which means it is also suitable for organic production, also strong against powdery mildew. It gives nice cylindrical and smooth roots, as you can see here. And it's especially for areas with a high disease pressure, so usually more a little bit for the southern countries, but also here in the north, for example, for organic production. One of the advantages is that this carrot will not get too long, so it will keep its size and it will not get out of size. These were our Nantes varieties. Next up is a cut and peel variety, which is the CR1706. It's one of our varieties that comes from the American breeding program, as Wieger has discussed with you before. It gives a high yield, suitable for processing for example, baby carrots or snack carrots. It gives long roots, which means you can take a lot of final product out of one carrot. It has a smooth skin, so it is also easy to peel. And even under different conditions, it keeps its uniformity. Its leaves are stronger than what we see in the field, than what the competition offers right now. This was a short presentation of our varieties. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if there are any questions, feel free to ask.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. We got two questions from the audience. The first one is, what is the main difference between Carlano and Caribou?
The main difference between Carlano and Caribou is, on one side, the health. Carlano is very healthy. It is, as mentioned, is one of the healthiest varieties of our portfolio, suitable for organic production, whereas Caribou we see is best suitable for conventional production. Also, there's a slight difference in days to maturity, so Carlano will need a little bit longer.
All right, thank you. And the other question, which variety gives good yield and is suitable for storage?
Suitable for storage and good yielding are both Caribou as Carlano. And as mentioned, the difference is Carlano is for organic production, Caribou is for conventional production, with both giving very high yields, both gross yield as well as net yield. Thank you for the questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them or reach out to one of my colleagues.
So, thank you for being here. Hopefully you've enjoyed the presentations of this year. We really hope for next year that you can meet us in person again. Unfortunately, I already mentioned the COVID situation. But we would really like to see you next year over here. Thank you for watching and see you next time.